So the fishing game. It's easy to construct. You can bring probably all this into the prison. You need tubs, candy, and spoons. That's all you need, and then you can play this game. So, and explain why you play the game, because you can just play the game, but then it's good to have that conversation after to remind them, oh, so we can't take everything out, because there is a maximum we can take out, and that's good for us and good for the fish. We noticed that a lot of the youngsters were really interested in sustainability and in how these processes work. So it's good to bring this in the training. Did you want to show it, or? Ja, zeker. We kunnen alles. Wappa. Hoop ik. Yeah, so we made these images in Canva, and I also shared the Canva links with all the partners in the project. So for the trainers, you should be able to find these through the partners. Ooh. Yeah, so these we made for all the presentations. So like the jobs you can do without a diploma on board, and the ones you do have an education, you need an education for. And we also talked about how you can get from one to another if you wanted to. Like if you start working and you keep on working, and you can also learn on the job in the Netherlands. So you go work at sea for a few weeks, and then you go to school for a few weeks, and you go back to sea. So if that's more your style of learning, then you can also choose that. So you can grow, but you have to work for it a lot. And this is where we talk about that you need the basic safety and you need a medical fitness check.
And what also worked very well in this module was, like Rose already mentioned, we had a lot of those quiz questions. So we asked them, how big do you think the super trawler net is? And then they had like these boards, and they could take part in the quiz. And then we showed them a bit how it works and how it looks like. And that was, very well received, because they couldn't wait for the next one.
Yeah. And we didn't have a lot of time for this, but maybe when you're doing your training, you can also look if you can something for rewarding, if someone is doing really well in like the whole day or something. But for us it was difficult because you can't really give them anything. That's also with the candy, so you can also play the game with marbles. It's a bit less fun, but I believe they couldn't bring the candy back to their rooms, right?
No, not always. Depends for each organization, but sometimes the youth prison says to us, please don't give them any chocolate or candy because they can use it to bribe each other.
Yeah.
Some organizations say, yeah, do it another place, and others say, oh, or even, not even evenly distributed.
Yeah. So
No, it's not forbidden.
it's not forbidden, but but know these limitations. Know what you can and can do, and if it will help your case. Because if they start, like if it creates a lot of animosity against each other when someone wins something, then it is not helping your case. So then you can play the game with marbles. And they still like to win, so. Maritime services and tourism, I said before that I did it, but I was confused about my follow-up, but this is happening now. So I already said, it's a very broad sector. I have a few things that fall under this.
This is the next sector.
This is the next sector, yes. That we consider under this. But there is much more, I must say. So, don't know if you ever heard of deep sea mining. Anyone know what deep sea mining is?
I think it was in the
Was
the minerals that are in the ocean.
yeah, you paid attention. Nice. So building at sea is considered under maritime services. So then we're talking about these airports in the sea, but also building a platform or windmills. It's all building at sea. Dredging is a very big one in the Netherlands. Must say that the people that work on the dredging vessels are often the best of their class. So for us, this is not something that we put very much on the map during the pilot, because you have to finish education, but then you also kind of have to be like the best and do some extra things. We saw yesterday the basic safety trainings or the safety trainings for these kind of offshore jobs are much higher as well. You need to do with the helicopter and everything. So there's a lot needed to go into this sector. They could maybe do it when they work on a container vessel first or do something else first and then grow into it. But as a startup job, we didn't find it very appealing. So we didn't pay much attention to it. But for the Netherlands, if we talk about maritime services and tourism, I think everyone would think directly of dredging, because it's a very big sector within our country. And we talked to some of the companies, because we work with them, and they said they do have sort of internships, because they do much more than dredging. They also build on land, and they say we have internships where people can follow all the things we do, and if they like it, then they can maybe grow into working there, and they can help. So there are some programs sometimes in companies that seem too far off, so go look for these programs. There might be also, like the guy said yesterday, that there was these companies that were collecting people from Romania to work at sea. These are great companies to connect with and see, okay, how can we make this a thing, and see how you can help Turning Blue. Sailing, and then we're talking about commercial sailing, so being captain of a ship when taking people. The smaller vessels, you don't have to have that much certification. In the Netherlands, you have to have like a license to sail. It's a very small license if it's a small boat. And I think it's similar in other countries. I know it's in Greece, for instance. But these are not complete educations of years, but it's more of a certificate like a basic safety. So they might be interesting sectors to dive into. Oil and gas, it isn't so sustainable, but it is what we still use. So there is still a lot of jobs to be found in this sector. So that's why I am putting it on there, because it's just still very important. And what we did with this training is you can connect oil and gas to the windmills and say, okay, so we focused a lot on working at sea on these big platforms, gaining oil and gas from the ocean. Now you see there's a lot of building of windmills because we need a cleaner form of energy, and that's your in to present maybe something about climate change. Why are we looking for a cleaner form of energy? And then you can give a small part of what we did yesterday, for instance. Well, whale watching, as I said, a lot more. There's a lot to be done. And I think this is the most important topic where you need to know your limitations, your capabilities and your limitations, because it's a wild grow. You can do so much in this sector. So choose a few and know that you can talk about this. Because otherwise it's not gonna reach the youngsters and you're gonna get all these questions that you don't know how to deal with. So don't show what you can't tell. Well, this is how the lecture is built up. Like I said, in the Netherlands, it's much building in sea, energy, building and sea, dredging. So these are the different ships and constructions that happen in this sector. And I have a quiz question again, like what what is the biggest thing we can build, or what can you think of that has been built in the ocean? Like, start creating a conversation again, and keep it easy, like Max said. If this is the first thing you talk about, for instance. Then maritime tourism. For us, we never say cruise industry is under maritime tourism because it's considered shipping. But I think for this project, it's okay if the cruise is under maritime tourism because it's also shipping and tourism. And I think it's also big in a lot of countries. Cruises, yeah. So you can talk about that. Diving, and I think this is also an interesting part of the lecture where you can start talking about marine ecology. You can show how pretty the ocean is, and that you can also work in that sector in creating a image.
Just on the cruises, because for example in Portugal a lot of cruise ships stop by, etc. So talk using it from Portugal is a big industry. But for example, when we talk to employers in that area, the first sorry to take on the project now, the first thing they would ask is, okay, but we always ask for criminal record. So we see the case of people that are in prison, whose natural is for having the alien fault,
Yeah.
or people that are in prison. But in that case, they basically said off the bat that because they passed in various territories, they had to ask for visas in these various territories. That was, it wasn't impossible, but usually that would be a factor that would exclude them immediately from it. So I think maybe try and find this out before you talk a lot about cruises, because cruises pay very well, and so it's a very attractive job.
Yeah.
And then talking to them, oh, it's a really attractive job, it pays very well, etc. And then people go there, they apply, they're immediately rejected. I think it would be the opposite effect.
Yeah.
But in this case, these are people that have also a criminal record, and that includes potential. It's a youngster, like very youngster, it doesn't count as a crime, it still will appear. So just find that out before you include cruises
Yeah.
in the training. In our case, for example, it's in the prison, so we didn't really, because of this, we didn't really include cruises. We didn't want to create a false expectation.
No, very. And you also have different kinds of cruises. You have cruises that stay in one country, or is the inland cruise or small cruise. But sometimes not. But sometimes it is. Like for us, we noticed that they do have to have it. They can't work on a cruise with a criminal record if they're on like top deck. So like waiters, cooks. So they're working with people. And then some of the people in the engine, they could have. So it differs per cruise, but it's very true what you say. Find it out. Make sure that this is something that they can do. You had a point?
Yeah, it's maybe a mixed view, but when you're 15 and you're inside, and you come outside, you're 18, doesn't your criminal record also?
No.
Depends.
No. But could be.
Could be.
After 18 years, it can be
In the Netherlands, if you have a criminal record as a minor, it will age faster. So if you behave for 5 years or something like that, it will be
yes,
destroyed, but it's not that you don't have it. It will just be gone.
Archived.
Yeah.
Archived, exactly.
and in some sectors you can't go for a long, long time working with criminal people, for example.
And I understand that the declaration of good behavior is also depending on the sector.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But when they can't have a job, but they can go to school, to some schools, so this is also a very interesting thing for youngsters, because they can have their certificate in prison, and maybe there they can go to some school to
Yeah.
study again.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. What was I gonna say? Gone. I'll come back to it. But yeah, again, know your limitations, and that this can also be a limitation. Oh, that was what I was gonna say. What is also considered maritime services is the Marines, Navy. Also something in the Netherlands, you can't work at the Navy with a criminal record, but you can work in the Army. And from the Army, you can grow to the Navy. So, yeah. Oh, I'm falling. Sorry. So, it's considered that if you have worked in the Army for a couple of years, you have this structured base, and then, yeah, sort of your criminal record kind of. Also depends on what you've done. So, and it will depend on what you will do within the Army, what your possibilities are in the Army to grow. But there can be a possibility to grow that way. Energy and sea, this is a growing topic. So we're not just talking about oil and gas and windmills, but they're also looking at harvesting wave action, solar panels in the sea. They're looking at a lot of different kinds of things. I think they're even they're now looking at catching CO2. They already look at it in the air, but also in the water. And they're seeing if that can produce energy. But all these things are in a very early stage, and that means a lot of research, so a lot of high education. But the oil and gas industry is already developed, so there's a lot more space there. Like I said, we want to focus on sustainability, but sometimes you need these practices still to grow, to gain. So then I focused on, from this topic to why are we looking for these new sources of energy, and I have a little short version of climate change. And I think you can make this very quizable, because a lot of people actually know some bits and parts of climate change. So it can be a nice quiz to see what is known, and through using a quiz you can go through this topic. But I think what is most important, there's a few messages that I think are most important in this story. It is that climate change is not weather. The difference between climate change and weather, the long time and the long time changes. What is changing? This is what we know. This is what we are all agreeing on. Sea level is rising, ice is melting, and it's getting warmer. Why is this? It's because of this greenhouse effect. It's because of this blanket we have around our Earth. And it's good that we have it. Always mention that because it's important. Otherwise, it would be minus 18 around the world. And now it's 14.5 on average. And then say there's research is agreeing that it's human activity that is producing the climate change that we're seeing right now. I think that should be it, and then maybe go into, okay, have you noticed anything? Have you seen maybe floods or droughts, or what do you know about wildfires, or just start asking questions and see if you can start a conversation about this, because it's a difficult topic. Try to make it easier. Try to keep it in their world. What do they know? And how can you relate that to climate change? Because there is a lot going on, and everybody is seeing it, but sometimes you don't know that you're seeing it. For instance, with fishers, sometimes the fisher is saying, oh yeah, that's true. I have to sail further now to get place. And that's climate change. So make it relevant for them. Find out what they know and what they see, and then continue in that story. For this topic, there's also some practical workshops, and we didn't do these, but they might be interesting to do. So when we have a windmill, when we build a windmill, they sometimes do this with a suction bucket, and this is on sandy bottoms. They can construct a monopile, the thing that the windmill is going to be on, with a suction bucket. And you can do this in class. So you have like an aquarium, and you have some sand and some water, and you can just push like a cup upside down in it, and you see if you would take out the water, then it creates a vacuum. So there's all these videos on YouTube how you can do this with the group. You need the tools to do it, so you'll need some water and the sand and an aquarium. So it might be some organizing, but it's all offline tools that you can figure out and find. So this could be something you can do. And it's nice constructing, and it's showing it as well. As well with the building a wind turbine, there's also modules in Knex. I don't know if everyone knows what Knex is. It's like Lego, but then with little rods, like little sticks that you build together. And there's like a module that you can build a windmill with Knex. Wow. It can be a fun exercise to build a windmill together. Also on climate change, the big current that you saw that was so complicated, you can also reproduce that. And it's also a fun exercise. It's not on the slides. You, again, need an aquarium with cold water. And you color that blue. So you put some blue coloring in it. And then you take some hot water and you color it red. And you just pour it in. And then you'll see, or the other way around, and you'll see it start moving. And it's creating this current. So where you pour it in, the cold water will get warmer, so it will go up, and then it will start moving because the cold water is still pressing it away, and then it will start creating a current. So you can actually make this in like a small aquarium. And there's videos as well on that on YouTube on how to do that, how to show the students. So that might be a nice exercise as well. But again, what I do want to say here, what we noticed, it was quite hard for us to get stuff into the prison. And you need to bring everything back again as well. I learned that the hard way. So choose, don't bring everything, because then you're going to make a hassle for yourself. We lost some pens along the way, so that was not good. Not good. Okay, how are you all doing? You want a break or you want to continue? I think today, if we just continue slowly, we take some breaks, we can be done earlier than the program says, so that's nice. Are you wanting a break now or are you good to go?
One question.
Yeah? Yeah?
What is the form of the training to the youngsters? Like PowerPoints, how do we receive it?
Yes, you will receive PowerPoints. And when there is a practical assignment, we have a training manual where we explain the practical assignments, which you also receive. But I think it's important for you to choose, and the ones that you need, you can then bring with you. But the how do you say it? The structure is on PowerPoint, yeah.
So we have to change the language, mainly because...
Yes. So you'll receive at the end of this, well, I'll need some time to put all your feedback in it as well, which I hope you will give at the end of today. But you will receive a package of the training we gave yesterday. So all the information we had yesterday, you will receive the PowerPoint slides. You will receive the slides that we are showing here today. So the PowerPoints with all these slides in it, and not the slides where the slides are on, but all the slides. I think the games, you have to arrange some for yourself, and if I have them on paper, like the listening assignment of yesterday I have on paper, so I can give them to you. The drawing assignment I have on paper, so you'll get that in the package. We have budget in the project to print these for every country. And they're in Canva, so we need to translate them to all the countries. And then you can print them on these cards, and it's memory. I'll get to that later. But so everything that we're doing will be in one form or another end up in your lab. So you should be able to use it all. So then we continue. Ports and harbors. This is also, I thought this was a very interesting sector for the youngsters, because there's a lot of different jobs to be found in the bigger ports. And there's also a lot of jobs on land or semi on land, which we heard was still a bit interesting for them because they found it scary or they just wanted to be home at night. So the offside of this is that there, like I said before, some of the youngsters had something to do with containers, and yeah, then you're most likely not able to work in a port if you have done anything bad with containers. We explained the difference between a port and a harbor, and in the Netherlands, of course, we have the Port of Rotterdam, which is a really big port. I don't know if any of you have such big ports. I thought Port of Constanța is pretty big, right? A lot happening there with all the cranes, and so I think there's a lot of that we discuss here that you can find there as well. But a port and a harbor can be quite different. And when there's like more sailing and more fisheries, we often call it a harbor. A harbor is publicly owned, and a port is more commercial. So the port can also be private, so privately owned. So it's often bigger, privately owned, a lot more traffic goes through it. So what are jobs that you can do here? In the Netherlands, we have 3 big ports and then I think 7 or 8 harbors. But in the ports, there's a lot of jobs to be found. So in the Port of Rotterdam, you have different sectors. The outerwards, towards the North Sea, there is all the container infrastructure throughput. There is an oil section where a lot of oil and LNG is being transferred and processed. So a lot going on. And these are the harbors, and they're mostly fishing, tourism, sailing. So then that's more the jobs that you can find there. So lashing is a job that we found you can do without certification or education. Lashing means that you tighten these beams on a ship. No, it's a screwing mechanism, and they put the containers on and they have to be screwed. It's a very time pressure job, so it has to be fast because they have to go through a lot of containers in a short amount of time. You have to be strong, physically fit, and punctual, because it's with a lot of time. Punctuality is very important in this job. And also confident and assertive and ready to go. It's also in small teams they do this, so it's very much teamwork. There's some videos of guys doing these jobs, and it felt to me a bit similar as how you talk about fishing. Like, it's hard work, but it's really team building, and it's really nice to do it together. This is a job you cannot do if you have stolen from containers, which is a thing happens. So, but there is, it depends on what you did if you can do this or not. So, then there's the tugboats and the rowers. This was actually the first time I heard of rowers when I started doing this project. I was very confused at first. I was like, I've never seen anyone row in the Port of Rotterdam. But it's like the tugboats, so they call them rowers as well. Apparently, back in the days, they used to be propelled by rowing, so that's why they're still called rowers. And you can also do this without education. You do have to have graduation from like high school, and then you can start and you can grow on the job. So there's a lot of different jobs that are coming from this. It can also be a really great starting point for going to school to get your seafaring license. So you can do this for a few years, and you have some time on boats because you are on small boats in the harbor. But then you have like this base on which you can go back to school and become a seafarer. So what they like push the big ships in, or they guide the big ships into the ports. That's what they do. And then there's, in the port of Rotterdam, it's really big. There is this waste management company that was also really excited about this project because they always employ people that have a distance to the labor market. So that's why we focused on this, because they were a super excited partner. And they have a similar, are a similar stepping stone as the rowers for working at sea, because they have a ship where they sail in the harbor, in the port, through all the ships, and they collect waste from the ships while they're underwater. And if you learn a little bit how to work on a boat there, then you can go back to school, and then if you want, you can become captain of that ship, or you can do something else afterwards. And it's also really nice company that does this in the Netherlands, because they recycle 99% of what they collect. So in terms of sustainability, that was also a very interesting topic. And these guys are really mentored. It's a really good company in mentoring people with a little bit of distance to the labor market and difficulties in life. And they're a family-owned business, and they have this very high value of helping each other and being there for each other. So. Oh yeah, I forgot to say that.
What's really interesting is in almost every venture center in the Netherlands, you can get your forklift certificate, and a lot of youngsters want to learn this because it's a fun thing to do, right? So it makes the step easier to take labor, for example.
Yes. So for us, this is a very interesting thing. I can imagine it's not for all the ports, but yeah, it could be, maybe. Okay. So for the work in ports, you also need some practical skills. And I talked to a seafarer for this to get some inspiration here. He was supposed to give a guest lecture as well, but on the day of our pilot, he got his baby. So, okay, I can understand why he wasn't there. But work in the ports is also about docking ships. And there's a lot going on when these big ships are docking. You can imagine, I don't know if any of you have ever sailed. No, yeah, some. Okay. So how big would you say the ropes are when you dock your sailing vessel? Can you carry it by yourself? A rope? No? How big was the vessel? Oh, that's a big one. Okay. So for a smaller sailing vessel, you probably be able to carry a rope by yourself. It's maybe this thick. Well, that's a quite thick one as well. But the bigger vessels you can't, because they're knotted, right? And they have this big loop at the end, and you have to throw the loop around this bolster on the shore. It's an art. And they do this as well with the very big ships. But it's a bit different because it's too hard, because you can't throw these loops because they're filled with metal. They're this big, you can't throw them. So what they do is they throw this one and to someone on the shore. So they have to throw it through a loop. So it's still a skill. And apparently not everyone can do it. So sometimes people come on board to do this for you because it's so difficult. We call this a caseje. And case is a very well-known Dutch name. So I was very weirded out by that this is called a caseje. I've not been able to find the name in a different language than Dutch. So I think it's been created in the Netherlands. You probably have a name for it. A monkey fist. But it is quite easy to knot this, to make it from a piece of rope. And there is also YouTube videos on this. So this could be one of the practical sections. And maybe you can find someone, like old sailors, they really like to do this as well, to give a knotting and mending guest lecture, where they can just start making knots from ropes. We found this a bit difficult to organize because I don't think we could take the ropes or something in the prison, or it was difficult.
Suicide groups, it's not
Yeah.
allowed to get ropes inside, but for a lot of groups it is, of course, possible.
Yeah.
Well, just the same with the candy.
Yeah. So you check if that is a possibility, and otherwise bring the ropes back. Make sure you don't do anything that they got to be able to like take the ropes themselves. Bring the ropes back. You also have a practical skill like this for fisheries, like mending the nets. It comes with a needle. It's not really like a needle we know from sewing. It's a bit flattened out, but we couldn't bring it. You can also, I know they also exist from wood, and they're like not so sharp. But yeah, also figure out if you can bring it or not, what you can do. But it could be a nice exercise if there's a possibility. So that's a docking. And like I said, I put communication here because when you go into a port, you need to communicate a lot. Where are you going? How much time do you need to wait? So here you can do the nice exercises we did yesterday. And they're always fun to do the drawing. And if you do it at the end of the day, it's perfect because everyone suddenly lights up again like you did yesterday. So probably good exercise to put here. So we have the slides that I gave on aggressive and non-verbal and verbal, on the perspective, and then the experiments with the drawing and the listening. Okay, shipping and transport. So I think shipping and transport we like to start with during the pilot because it gives you a bit of an overview of the amount of different vessels that are out there. So it came last today, but we'll still go through them. And also for the shipping industry, there is a lot of need for people working on the deck. So these are the what did he call it? Ordinary seamen that was named during the presentation and study visit. So what you only have to have is your basic safety training and your medical fitness, and then you can start working as an ordinary seaman. So these are needed on all these ships, so that's why this is a good one for prisons. My phone is in the way. So a little bit about this sector. Because the container is one of the two things that created our global industry, our global economy. The reason that we can have any type of food anywhere in the world, whenever we want it. There was another thing that contributed to this world economy. Anyone know what it is besides the container? It's in the quiz question, so you can vote. A is AliExpress, so the system of shipping a lot of small things from China for a cheap price. Telephone or the internet. So you can take a card if you want, and you want to vote. What? So what helped the global economy? Besides the container. So we have a lot of cheap ordering online, a lot of the telephone or internet. I see a lot of C's, so the internet, you're voting for all three. That's not possible. There's only one right answer.
Yeah, but that's, I'm sorry, but that's true. Change in each way, all three of them.
No, the start of the global economy was created by two things. The container and the internet. You're all correct. Yes. Yeah, the container. Because what is so awesome about the container? Can you think anything that's awesome about a container? Why was this so life-changing for the world? What?
Liquids, not breaking stuff. You can transfer liquids.
You can transfer liquids without breaking it, okay.
And also not breaking I mean, imagine the ship that everything is moving and everything will break. If you have a container, it just stays there.
Yeah, so what did we use before we had containers? Do you know? Does anyone? Barrels, yes. We used mostly barrels for things. So what is this container compared to barrels? Why is it? It is square, yeah. Efficient, you can stack it, you can fit more in. But the most important thing about the container is that we have agreed on the same size. So containers have the same size everywhere, which means it doesn't matter if you're in China or in the United States or in the Netherlands, containers can always fit on board your ship and you can stack them. So that's why containers were such a life-changing thing for the world. We could bring a lot more containers with us. Well, it's interesting to tell the students what shipping is. It's for bringing something from A to B, and then the realization that almost everything in this room, wherever you are, came here by a ship. So you can also ask a more open question like, what do you think came here by ship? And then you have a conversation about that. So everything, probably everything in this room came here by a ship. Yeah? I don't know his name, but he's in this video. So, from the United States. It is something Mac. It is something Mac something. His name is like his last name with MC, like all the American names in my. But the video is quite long, and I put the YouTube link in. We downloaded it. You cannot do that; it's illegal, but we did because we cannot show it offline or online. But maybe we can probably arrange something because there is systems in the prison where you can show probably the online video. And otherwise, we could ask this video if we can use it, but we haven't gotten to it. Yeah, that could be it too. Yeah. But to be on the safe side, I put in the YouTube link and not the downloaded version. Just be aware that you need to figure this out. But this is a really great video. It's about shipping, how it emerged and what happened, how it grew, and it's really nice. It's a long video though. I would recommend shortening it. So I put in the notes of the slide, I put how short we made it. You can watch it yourself and think what is interesting for them. You can also stop it when you think, okay, I lost my crowd, so I'm going to stop it now. It's like 10 minutes, I think, in total. But there's like a 2-minute part that's really interesting. Yeah, Malcolm McLean, that's it. And then this is quite short. We have some theory on the salaries and stuff like we did with the fisheries. But I think when I gave this, a lot of questions arose already about shipping. We have a little video as well of a guy, I told some of you already, of a guy that visits a container vessel, and there is like an empty lot in the container vessel, and they go all the way down, and he's like standing there, and he's like surrounded by containers, like as a flat so high, like I think 8 or 14 stories, between 8 and 14 stories high. And you're in the belly of the ship, which is underwater, and the containers are like rising above you. So it's a really visual video that's it's really cool. It's a bit scary, but it's also really cool. So you have a half of the group who's like, wah, and the other half is like, whoa. So it's a nice video, and it makes it visible. So this already took me about 15 minutes, and then it was a good idea to start doing something practical. So then we played the memory. And I don't know for now what the time is. We have 10 more minutes, so I'm going to continue, and then we can play the memory after the didactics and the lunch. Is that a good plan? Okay, so this is preparing you already for the memory. There is ships in the memory, but of the different sectors. So not only shipping, but also maritime services and also fishing vessels are on there. But I'm going to show you the ones that we consider shipping. So, of course, I think the most known one is the container vessel. Then we have a bulk carrier. I talked about it yesterday. So these carry goods in bulk. So that can be grains, that can be sand, that can be chemicals. Then you call it a chemical tanker. Mostly those are liquid or gas, so they are differently built. But it could also be something else, and then it can be in bulk. So there's these hatches, and that's all down to a storage room where they have, for instance, grain or other kinds of grasses. Wheat. An oil tanker, they have a lot of safety equipment on top of the deck as well, because it's, of course, quite dangerous to move that much oil. But they're very well protected, so if anything goes wrong, there's a lot of things going on the vessel to keep it safe. A chemical tanker, so this is one of those chemical tankers that really has specific shape for gas. So to keep gas in a round form is safer. So that's why this is in a like this, shaped like this. A ferry, we'd almost forget about that one, but we have a lot of them among us, I think. So a ferry is typically bringing cars and people from A to B, and you often have that you go in one side and go out the other, but it doesn't have to be. You also have a ro-ro vessel, and this transports everything on wheels. And ro-ro stands for roll on and roll off. So it's not as a ferry where you go on a holiday and you drive on with your car and you sit on the top and you eat something and then you're there and you drive off with your car. But for instance, Volkswagen has a new car and there's 20 shipped to China. They roll them on and they roll them off. So that's a ro-ro ship. Now, then on board of these really big ships that take these longer travels, like container vessels, but also ro-ro ships can be quite long, there's all these kinds of services on board. Because like Robert said, you need to fix it with each other. And he was gone a week, but some of these ships can be gone for months. So you have to be able to fix everything together. So there is like hotel services on board, like civil service on board, cleaners, cooks, sometimes even like a manager who makes sure everybody's okay and doing well and has clean sheets and whatever. So these are all jobs that the youngsters can definitely do. And often because you are on board, you get a little bit more than you would get on land. And make this comparison, because they really like to hear this. Then you have the technical department, so that's in the engine room, and has everything to do with the motor, with oil, with the engines. And the nautical department, so that is the steering of the boat, docking the boat, making sure you don't ram any other boats, all these kinds of things. If you want to work in the nautical department, you can start as, like what we talked about, an ordinary seaman. In the technical department as a motorman, and I think there is some certification in this that some youngsters can already get in prison. So they need like a low-level certification on engines or on motors or on welding. There's also welders on board, or electricians are also on board. So if we look at the nautical department, this is the ranks in most ships. So this is a general story. I think also this is the story that you have to adapt the least, because this is a very international sector, so it's quite similar in all the ships. So you have the deckhands and the ratings, the ordinary seamen. That's where you start, and often you can learn on the job, so you can continue to grow in your education. And then the quiz is, what does a deckhand do? Well, it does mean cleaning the deck, like you saw back in the days on the videos, but also fastening the ropes. You can be on watch, so you have to watch out for other boats when it's really busy. Loading and unloading they need to help with, and all these different tasks that come on the deck. And if you show that you are quite skilled in something, or handy, or practical, and innovative, and creative, then often you get a lot more things to do. So you can really already grow in this one role. Then the engine department. So that starts with like an oiler, motorman, and an electrician. Those are kind of the job that the engine ratings do, so the lowest level. And it's good if you have a low, like a first certification of electricity or engines or welding. And you can also grow with that, so you become an engineer. And then the same counts for the civil service, the cleaning and the cooking is often possible jobs. Again, all these jobs, so even the cooks, they all need basic safety training, because everybody needs to know what happens in case of an emergency, and they all need medical fitness. So that's for everyone who works on the boat. Then from this, you can go into the topic of basic safety training, and there's a lot of videos on this. But it would also be really nice if you can find a training center in your country, and maybe invite someone that gives these trainings, because they can more vividly explain what you have to do in these trainings. So it's really nice. I once saw at the fisheries school in Belgium, they had one of these white cylinders that we saw yesterday, and if they touch water, they like explode, and then this orange raft comes out that was standing to the side. And they did this with the group in the, how do you call it? The kantine. In the mess room, yeah. And they had to put it back, and they had to try to climb in it, and well, it's probably not possible everywhere, but it would be really cool if you can arrange something like that, of course. But I just wanted to tell you, because the guys were like over the moon. They loved it so much that this was happening, and it's quite impressive if it's happening. So a cool thing to do. But there's also I don't know if any of you looked when we were standing over the pool. If you look backwards in the room behind us, there was all these things hanging on the wall, little safety equipments. Maybe if someone comes and gives a guest lecture on this, they can bring some of that safety equipment, and they can talk about how it works, and would maybe also help them to feel safer about work at sea, because there's a lot done on safety at sea, so there's a lot to be told as well. And it might help in this department. But there's the elements, and I think this is quite appealing, and the guys also said this, because it's very practical, and also the theoretical part, you don't have to do an exam, you just have to be there and listen. And then also the practical parts, you just have to, that is kind of an exam, you have to do them, you have to go through the exercises. But it's all very physical and practical, so I think it's appealing. Well, then we talk about salary, and I think one of the educational elements I wanted to put in here that we talked about a lot during the pilot is that your salary is not just the money you get at the end of the month. I think that's a bit different in different countries, but you also get some money for your pension, you get insurance if anything happens on the job. In this case, you have, for the period at sea, you don't have any costs. And you also get paid when you're at home, so while you're sitting on the couch, they really like that. You have vacation days, sometimes you have a 13th month, you have sick days, so it's really a lot more than just some money at the end of the month. And yeah, not everyone knew this, so this was also motivational.
And I think it's also important to showcase it to them, because all these young people also have financial guidance inside prison, or to learn about monthly cost of daily life, just to show them what a month of groceries cost, because you can also include this in your salary amounts. Just really show it to them.
Yeah. And some of the guys were also saying, yeah, but if I am at sea, I do have to pay for my house, because otherwise it's going away. And that's true, of course. But then there's also some companies that help you look for places, or that have like a campus where you can, at least for a while, live until you find something better. So they're very accommodating, most of these jobs, because they really need people. I think that's a very important message in this. They really need more people on board to work for them. So they're quite accommodating. Well, here we compared it to working as a truck driver, because it was something that was mentioned during the pilot. And they said to me, like, but a truck driver just earns as much. And then I looked it up, and well, it was quite a difference, actually. Without any experience, it was 500 euros more a month. And with 2 years of experience, you already, go a lot up. So I thought it was a lot. But what we think is a lot is not for them a lot, of course, because they have a different frame of mind. So, but this is a good overview. Like, it shows them, okay, you can do the same kind of job, but it's, more. I earn more.